is being live streamed. Let me update here.
No, it doesn't
Now,
go.
on the app, it started to connect it. Okay,
Look,
streaming.
look.
Yeah,
This is
it's
what
live.
is it?
Yes.
But why it doesn't show me notification that it is live, or it doesn't tell me anything that it is live?
No, but it is live. I can see here.
Ah, okay. Ah, okay,
On
cool.
all of them, YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram.
Okay, cool. You can see me?
Yes?
Okay, let me share my screen. Am I sharing my screen?
No, not yet.
I can see. Hang on. Let me. What about now?
No.
Okay, so it doesn't actually live stream when you share screen. It doesn't do that then.
Yeah, it's sharing now.
Ah, is it?
It's
Okay,
sharing now.
cool. Thank you. Oh my God, finally we're here. Let me just do that. Yeah. All right. Good morning, everybody. My name is Nish. I'm a registered migration agent, and I'm coming to you live from Thailand today. So the topic for today's conversation is the recent changes or the ongoing development um, in relation to the skill visa program in Australia, specifically state nomination, and how this is impacting a lot of migrants who are waiting for the invitation in either WA or pretty much across Australia. So thank you for joining us today. So what I would like to do is we have prepared this slide for you guys. So basically we have about, for this financial year, there are about 20,350 allocations for the total invitation that across the board, essentially, for skill visa. However, there are, compared to how many seats there are available and how many expression of interests there are pending to be invited, it's basically one place, one invitation for every 12 expression of interests, if we do the calculation. So if we look at the latest data here, and just that this is actually the latest skill EOI data that I can find on the government website is from October of 2025. So this is more than 1 year old. However, you can see here that for surplus 189, there were essentially 178,000 plus EOIs submitted. Then out of them, only 10,000 had lodged and 168 were invited essentially. Okay, and then if you look here in the surplus 190, you can see how many were submitted, how many are lodged, how many invited, and these are basically closed, meaning that they are either still waiting to be invited at this point in time. What does closed mean? What does closed mean, Douglas, here? No, I don't understand this. Hang on. Yeah, there we go. So the point being is that there are a lot of expression of interest compared to how many places are available. Okay. So it's the pie of pain. is very true. I mean, you can see on your data, and then here for this financial year, this is essentially how many allocations we have between each state and territory government for surplus 190 and surplus 491 visa invitations. So there are a total of the 20,350 migration intake for this financial year out of all the EOIs. Okay. And as you know, I'm based in WA, and in WA we have for 190 2,000 places, and for surplus 491 we have 1,400. So in total we have 3,400 places. However, you can see here that compared to last financial year, yeah, here there is we have in 2023, and then last year was the highest, and then we have a 1,000 places drop for this financial year. And same goes with 491. We had more numbers last year than how much has been allocated for this financial year. So, we can see the impact of all the anti-migration stuff that's happening, and the government wanting to basically reduce the numbers to keep their constituents happy, as well in the state of the current invitations that the state government can invite. So if you look here, just give me 1 second. If you look here in the state government, for Western Australia, you will see here in the latest invitation round, there it is. In the latest one, I mean, this document, I can tell you, would be tens of pages when invitations were issued. But last invitation round, you can see the WA government has only invited exclusively trade occupations from either overseas, or those who are based in WA, or those who are living in another state or territory. So it limits significantly the amount of people who can be invited. I mean, look, for someone who have completed their graduation here in WA, they were invited. Only 3 occupations were invited out of hundreds of them, because the state government, even though they have, say, 2,000 places for 190, the allocation comes in drips from the federal government. So what that means is that the state government, even if they have 2,000 places for 190, they can't just use them, So, and that is reflected here. So if you look here, so far, the state of Western Australia has been able to only utilize 420 invitations in total between 190 and 491. And that's because even though the federal government has promised XYZ amount of places, they still come in trickles. So then the state government is extremely limited in terms of how many people they can invite and what occupations. Then it becomes a highly competitive market for skill visa, becomes extremely competitive. And then everything is up in the air I mean, they didn't invite nurses, and nurses are in the high priority list. Community workers are in high priority list for WA. But of course, when when they don't have places to invite. State government cannot make those decisions independently. They need still the federal government's approval in relation to issuing invitations and how many places, all of those things. So that's basically that pie of pain that we were talking about, that just further exacerbate the problem, okay, or further makes it more worse for people who are waiting to be invited. I mean, I can tell you, I've had clients who waited for the invitation until basically 2 years of EOI, because EOI is valid for 2 years, and towards the last couple of months they got invited, and by this time they had sorted some other things out or XYZ. So, you know, the purpose of these slides here is just to demonstrate or to show you like how all the different states are doing in relation to their skill visa places for this financial year. I mean, if you look at Queensland, their allocations have basically, for 190, they have gone up. But all the state and territory government, these are just numbers that they will get eventually, or at least that's what's promised by the federal government. However, they may only be able to utilize very few of them, depending on how many places the immigration department releases to them. Okay, so as you can see here, the opportunity states are definitely Queensland and WA, because WA does invite people who are either based overseas or are based in interstate. So the advantage, I want to focus on WA today, even though, as situation develop, the things will hopefully improve in relation to skill visa. But with WA, the biggest advantage with WA state government is that they don't require you to live in WA or have graduated from WA or have all these ties and all demonstrate 6 months of employment. None of that. In WA, especially for 491, is the easiest invitation to get. Why? Because 491 invitation only requires an applicant to have an expression of interest for Western Australia, have the points that you claim in your EOI, and have an occupation that can be invited pretty much in WA list, essentially. And then it's up to the state government, because there is no requirement that you must have worked in XYZ no nominated occupation, how long, whether you lived in WA, none of that. 491 is the most advantageous skill visa invitation EOI for WA, because it does not require that. But say someone wants to apply for surplus 190 in WA, you need to have at least 6 months of full-time employment contract in order for you to be considered for an invitation for 190. And they're very strict in relation to this particular requirement. So if you look here, as you can see, they also have WA has a ranking system. Okay, so they prioritize people who are living in WA first. Okay, then basically those who are living in offshore or another state or territory. Okay, so clearly they prioritize the trade, because that's the industry that needs most people. Okay, then we have healthcare, then we have hospitality and education and training. So this is their ranking system. However, they don't tell us what sort of things they take into account, or like, because I've had clients who got invited for, say, community services occupation within few months of their expression of interest. And then I've had clients who basically waited for more than 1.5 years with no logical explanation as to why they were made to wait this long. Okay, So so this is I would say is pretty really big disadvantage with skill visa in general is that you have to be invited, you have to wait. It's all waiting game majority of the time. 90% of the time you're just waiting for things to happen that are beyond your control. Nothing you can do about it because without skill assessment, you can't apply for expression of interest. Without expression of interest, you can't be invited. Without invitation, you can apply for skill visa. And now, as you know, those who are on graduate visa in Australia are unable to apply for onshore student visa. Say, your graduate visa is only 1.5 year. You need to be able to stay here, but you are not able to apply for any other visa. Sorry, we are not able to apply for student visa whilst you are in Australia, which was a band-aid solution before that could be utilized. Um, so, it's not only just highly competitive, waiting forever sort of market, but also if your visa runs out and you haven't been invited, then essentially you have extremely limited options for onshore visa options. Okay, I mean, unless you have an employer who is willing to sponsor, then that's a completely different story. Um, and and that's really the issue. Okay, is that it's so difficult to find employers who are willing to make that commitment because it's a huge commitment from all parties involved. So moving to basically Victoria. I There we go. Victoria is one of the state where if someone wants to apply for Victoria, I just say, nah, do it yourself. Like it's so difficult. It's just so difficult. Okay. So if you're looking for, I don't want to use the word easy invitation, but because again, it all depends on when you submitted your EOI, how long it's, yeah, how long you've lived here, XYZ. There are lots of factors that come into play that they don't tell us, like how they make a decision like, okay, this is a candidate from overseas who deserves this invitation, for example. Okay. We just don't know. They get to choose. Okay. And that's the reality of skill visa for many years now, is that it's completely out of our hands as to who gets invited and when they get invited. Okay. Now, we already talked about the BA advantage, but as you can see, if you're studying carpentry or any sort of trade occupations in WA, keep studying that, keep going at it, because that's going to get you your skill visa eventually. So yeah, it's definitely one of those occupations or studies that in vocational training, especially in trade occupation, if you're under 35 years of age, then you can apply for a graduate visa. You can get your skill assessment through job ready program, all of that stuff. And then once you have your skill assessment, then basically because of trade, building and construction industry, especially trade occupations in the highest priority for WA, you can pretty much expect an invitation fairly quickly. As you can see here, for example, in the latest invitation round, we have, say, someone who is based in WA, who submitted their expression of interest August last year, got invited at 75 points. You see how long someone has been waiting for the invitation. So, oh wait, no, sorry. We are still in 2025. August this year, so that was just a few months ago. So yeah, and someone someone is waiting in another state or territory since last year. Okay. And this data obviously fluctuates each time, each invitation round. Okay. So carpenter, you see, lots of exclusively actually trade occupations, exclusively trade occupations in the last invitation round for WA. So if you're one of those students who are studying either carpentry or tiling or bricklaying, you definitely have an advantage in WA. Or even if you're living in another state or territory, but you are studying any of these trade occupations, you also have an advantage because if once you finish your studies, you could effectively move to WA if you wanted to, and do your job ready program from Western Australian employer, because then you are based in WA, so then your ranking for is double top basically, because you are not only currently residing in Western Australia, which is their top priority, but you're also coming from the top priority of the invitation. So, and of course, you need to realize that this is as of right now, today, as I go live today, okay? Because things are always changing, always fluctuating. It's ever changing realm of migration law, and it's skill visa or in immigration in general, I would say, is always is an extremely highly political and highly debatable area of our society, um, that whoever is in power gets to decide basically, and they can make fundamental changes that we could not anticipate before. Okay, and it happens all the time. So, but if you are one of those people who are studying trade occupations, like I said, keep going at it. Okay, and I can definitely, I don't have the luxury of time today to actually go into details about how a particular occupation can lead to a permanent visa. Okay, but if you're interested, let us know in the comments or send us an email, and we can see if we can do a live stream on an overview of the process for a particular trade occupation that you are interested to explore. Okay. Um, but yeah, that's sorry, I'm a bit sick today, but that's basically what I wanted to discuss. And let's see. Okay. Now, when it comes to Thailand, okay, we are here. So I want to really talk about Thailand, because this is such an amazing country. And in my experience, majority of the people from Thailand who want to come and study, they come to Australia. Either they come there on a student visa to study English, and then they go and study other options, like, say, for example, trade occupations, XYZ, or bachelor's or master's, okay? Or usually you guys have spouses or partners who are based in WA, okay? But if you're interested to know more about how you can move to Australia, um, then yeah, reach out to us. We have a free 15-minute consultation where I can discuss with you briefly your options, get to know your profile, and see if I can help you. We can book a formal consultation, and then we can go from there. But essentially, because with Thai citizens, you guys have a really good advantage in the sense that, well, I'm speaking in English. I can't speak Thai, but essentially, majority of people, yes, even though you can speak English or functional English somewhat, but it's different to academic studies or going to study. So my always go-to advice for any Thai citizen who is based here and have not necessarily studied English as part of their education is to basically go and study English for a year, 1.5 year. That gives you this buffer room, so to speak, to essentially get to know the place, get to know Australia, whether you actually like it, whether you actually want to stay there or live there. Um, and studying English just gives you that foundation for your future in Australia, but also gives you that opportunity of exploring whether that's the right fit for you. And then, of course, right before few months before you're going to finish your studies, is when you figure out whether what it is that you want to study. So, say someone who has completed year 12 and have come to Australia to study English, and completed their studies or are going to finish their English course in the next few months. They're really committed. English is really good now. They can do the English test. Then I would say go with the trade occupation, because it's an excellent option for study. And if you get admission, you get graduate visa, you can apply for a skill visa. If you have a sponsor, then you can potentially look at employer sponsorship, which is where you have the processes within your control, in the sense that you don't have to be invited by the government to apply for that visa, all that stuff. So having those options, it really opens up those options, because 1 year, when you say you applied for expression of interest in a trade occupation, carpenter, say, you've completed 1 year of work experience, you're waiting for your skill assessment to be issued, or maybe you have and you submitted your expression of interest already, and your visa is finishing in the next 3 months and you haven't received an invitation. However, you find a sponsor who is willing to give you sponsorship, great. Because you have completed 1 year of work experience as a carpenter after you completed your Cert 3 in carpentry, then that 1 year of experience effectively makes you eligible to be applied for Subclass 482 employer sponsorship visa, which only requires now only 1 year of employment, full-time employment within the last 5 years in your occupation. So then you don't have to wait for an invitation, basically. Okay. So I have a couple of clients who have multiple avenues happening at the same time. For example, we applied for some type of employer sponsorship visa, and they also have an expression of interest that is waiting to be invited. So being on a 482 visa, for example, does not automatically kill the skill visa option. Say if I'm on a 482 visa as a carpenter and it's been 6 months, but then I got invited for Subclass 190 or Subclass 491, I can absolutely 100% pursue that invitation to up to visa lodgement, okay, and then get my skill visa through that. And there is no issue with the 482. Of course, once you hold 482 visa, you need to comply with the visa conditions and everything. But as soon as your skill visa is finalized, then your 482 visa ceases to exist, basically. So look, it's highly complex system, even though it seems easy or it seems very plain. Yes, sometimes the points can be easy to miscalculate. So this is why, I always recommend that you at least consult with a professional, a registered migration agent, or a legal practitioner who specializes in migration law, to really understand, because you really do not want to reach the point of getting invitation and you have miscalculated your points because you refuse to consult a professional. So, just be mindful of that. But other than that, that's all I wanted to tell you guys today. So thank you for joining us. Douglas, do we have any questions?
No, not at the moment.
Okay, great. No worries. Well, thank you everybody who will watch this later. I don't know. So stay tuned and sayonara. Bye-bye.